Revealed, how one CEO's son overcame mockery to spark an unexpected 900M empire transformation. Jake Thompson felt the weight of his last name pressing down on him like a lead blanket. Growing up in the shadow of his father's towering success as a CEO, he couldn't escape the snickers and whispers that followed him. "Just another rich kid," they would say, their voices dripping with sarcasm. But behind the glimmering facade of wealth, Jake faced an internal battle most didn't see. Yes, he had a family that loved him unconditionally, but the unyielding pressure to define himself beyond the corporate plaque was overwhelming. Jake wandered the bustling streets of their Midwestern town, a place alive with the spirit of small businesses fighting to survive against the towering corporate giants. He admired the tenacity of the local shop owners, their tired smiles mingling with determination. Each woman in the bakery and every man in the hardware store reminded him of a simple truth: their grit was unmatched. Inspired, a fire ignited within him. He wanted to bridge the gap between his world of privilege and the vibrant, hardworking community around him. But every bold dream he unveiled was met with dubious laughs and skepticism. What does he know about hustle? They scoffed. So, when Jake launched his tech startup aimed at helping local businesses thrive online, confidence surged through him. With every click, he envisioned dreams realized and futures brightened. But then, disaster. The launch backfired. Budget flew out the window, and the laughter morphed into scorn. Was he nothing more than a failure in a suit? Financial ruin clawed at his spirit and created a rift with his family that haunted him. Loyalties battled within him. His father's legacy loomed large, yet Jake longed to forge his own identity, one not rooted in an inheritance. Feeling lost, Jake sought solace in the words of local elders. He listened to stories filled with grit and struggle over hot coffee at the diner. Each late night spent among the shelves of mom-and-pop stores fueled his transformation. Through tears of frustration and moments of revelation, he discovered a deeper strength: community. Encouraged by local business leaders who had faced adversity themselves, he learned the true value of working together, a lesson so many mockers didn't grasp. Then tragedy struck. A natural disaster crippled the town, leaving local businesses staggering. Instead of retreating, Jake saw a chance for redemption. He recalled every late-night chat, every lesson learned. The moment had arrived to rally his community, and this was bigger than him. He organized disaster relief, uniting battered businesses as they rebuilt together. The energy surged. Hope emerged from the rubble, and from that unity, something beautiful sparked. Just like that, Jake's journey took an unexpected turn. From those ashes grew a robust 900 million empire, fueled by the resilience of both the community and Jake himself. He was building something real, something that thrived on connection and purpose. But as he reveled in the sweet taste of success, a gnawing tension remained. His family, still fractured, was a puzzle he hadn't solved. As he stood overlooking the thriving enterprise he had built, Jake faced a choice. Would he allow past wounds to fester, or would he embrace the love of his community and mend the family he'd nearly lost? The road ahead shimmered with possibility, yet the unresolved ache tugged at him. Love and reconciliation beckoned like uncharted territory, leaving everyone guessing, could he truly heal what had been broken? Jake took a deep breath as he stared at his bustling office, the faint smell of freshly brewed coffee wafting through the air. He had come so far, yet the success that surrounded him felt hollow without his family by his side. The thoughts of his father's disapproval and his mother's quiet disappointment played on a loop in his mind. Would they ever truly understand? He recalled a time when laughter filled their dining room, vibrant discussions intertwining with the aroma of home-cooked meals. Those moments now felt like shards of a shattered picture frame, beautiful yet broken. He wanted to recapture that warmth, but how could he when the air between them grew colder with every passing day? Determined to mend the rift, Jake made a decision. He would host a town hall meeting, inviting not only the business community but also his family, in hopes of showing them the true impact of his work. He wanted the Thompsons to see firsthand how their legacy could uplift others, not overshadow them. The day arrived, and nerves clutched at his stomach like a vice. Standing at the podium before a sea of familiar faces, Jake felt both fear and excitement. The room buzzed with anticipation. Town officials, shop owners, and even his father's old friends filled the seats, all of them there to see what had become of the little boy they once dismissed. That he began to speak, his voice steady but soft. Stories poured from him, tales of families salvaging their dreams, of hope igniting fires in the forgotten corners of their town. As he spoke, he caught sight of his mother, her eyes glistening with unspoken emotions. Jake's heart began to race, urging him to push through the fear. "I didn't just build a business," he declared, passion flooding his words. "I built a community. Together, we can rise like never before." His voice grew louder, the weight of his honesty hanging in the air as a few heads nodded in agreement. Yet, in the back, he spotted his father, arms crossed, face stern. A wave of disappointment washed over him, pulling at his resolve. After his address, a local bakery owner approached him, gratitude shining through her teary eyes. "Jake, your vision saved our family's livelihood. You've made a difference." The warmth in her words lit up his spirit like the sun cutting through a gloomy day, but just as a smile crept onto his face, he felt the familiar knot in his gut tighten further. His father's disapproval loomed large, a shadow darkening the glow of his triumph. The tremors of failure washed over him again. Had he really changed anything? In the following weeks, the town hall meeting echoed in his mind. It ignited a fire in the community, leading to successful collaborations and partnerships. Yet, at home, all remained tense. His father seldom spoke to him, leaving quiet dinners filled with unsaid words. Jake sometimes felt like an intruder in his own house. Then one evening, his father surprised him by asking for a moment alone. The air current shifted, carrying a mixture of hope and trepidation. "Jake," he began, voice low. "We need to talk." As the words hung in the air, Jake felt the tide turning. The chance for reconciliation could finally be within reach, a door that opened wide, yet carried the weight of years beneath it. With anticipation pounding in his chest and the future suddenly feeling more fragile, Jake prepared for what lay beyond that conversation. Would it lead to healing, or was this just another broken promise lingering in the space between them? Jake's heart raced as he watched his father's face. It was a landscape of emotions, worn lines etched by worry, disapproval, and perhaps a flickering of something softer, something resembling hope. Was he ready for this? Did he truly want to face the man who had, for so many years, critiqued his every move? "Sit down," his father finally urged, gesturing to the kitchen table, the same table where countless arguments had erupted like simmering pots. Jake reluctantly sank into a chair, feeling the weight of their shared history pressing down on him. For a long moment, silence reigned, broken only by the distant sound of the TV flickering in the living room. Jake longed to grip the words swirling in his head and throw them across the table. "Dad, I need you to understand." Yet every time he opened his mouth, the words seemed to dissolve, slipping away like grains of sand. His father shifted in his seat, his gaze faltering, then resting on the floor. "Jake, I'm proud of your successes, really," he began slowly. "But sometimes I wonder if you've lost sight of where you came from." The truth of those words hit Jake hard. He had spent years attempting to redefine their family name, but in doing so, had he inadvertently distanced himself from what it meant to be a Thompson? The thought tugged at his heart. Did his father see him as a stranger in his own family? Taking a deep breath, Jake steeled himself. "I haven't lost anything. I want to carry our legacy forward, not erase it. This isn't just about business, Dad. It's about saving our community, giving hope to those who feel lost, like Mom and you once did." His father's expression shifted again, as if startled by the fire in Jake's words. "You think you can fix everything with your business?" "I believe in what I'm doing," Jake retorted, a quiver in his voice betraying the vulnerability beneath his bravado. "And I want you to believe in it too." The weight of unspoken words settled heavily between them. Jake could see his father considering every syllable. Would this conversation spiral into another argument, or was a glimmer of understanding beginning to sparkle in his father's eyes? moments stretched into eternity before his father finally met his gaze. "I just want you to be happy, son. I worry that you're chasing something that doesn't matter. I don't want to see you fail, or worse, drown in this time-consuming venture while all those you love suffer for it. I can do both, Dad." The yearning to connect, to reconcile, surged through Jake. "You think I want this solitude? I want our family back. I want us to gather around that dining table again, no walls between us." Tears threatened to spill from Jake's eyes, but he fought them back. They had both lost so much a connection, trust, and perhaps the truest sense of what family meant. Just when he thought the moment might slip through their fingers, his father nodded ever so slightly. "Maybe," his father hesitated, "maybe we can start with a family dinner? I could invite your mother." Jake felt a spark of hope light inside him. It wasn't a full reconciliation yet, but it was the first step, a tender opening in the fortress they both built around their hearts. As relief washed over him, Jake knew they were on the verge of something that could change everything. But before he could respond, his phone buzzed on the table, drawing their attention. It was a message from a colleague, someone needing an urgent decision. "Just a second," Jake said, eyes darting to the screen. His heart sank as he read the text. "It's about the funding for the new project. We need to act fast." His father watched him intently, and suddenly the table felt like an arena, torn between two worlds: the work Jake had fought his entire life to build and the fractured family bonds waiting to be healed. Jake straightened his spine, a wave of determination flooding through him. How could he balance both? Was it even possible? With his father's eyes fixed on him, Jake took a moment, knowing that this twist could either derail him or propel him to unfathomable heights. Would he be able to juggle both the expectations of a thriving business and the fragile threads of family? As he prepared to make the call, his heart thundered. What would he choose, and at what cost? This was only the beginning, and behind the uncertainty lay the adventure he had been so desperately seeking. Jake felt the urgency of the moment. His father's gaze bore into him, a mix of curiosity and concern. The dinner they were cautiously discussing felt like a distant dream. He took a deep breath, fingers hovering over the phone screen. The business that had consumed him for so long now seemed to blink vividly against the rising possibility of reconnecting with his family. "Hold on," he said, voice low, unsure. He glanced at his father, studying the tension in the lines etched across his brow. I need to figure this out first." The words tasted bitter in his mouth. He had just opened a door to repairing their relationship, and now he was about to slam it shut. "Jake," his father said softly, leaning forward slightly. "You always run with a plan. What's this project? What do they want?" The question hung in the air, heavy with unspoken expectations. "It's a major investment deal," Jake admitted, barely meeting his father's gaze. "Without it, we risk losing everything we've built." He thought of his team, the countless hours spent in the office, the late nights fueled by anxiety and ambition. If he didn't respond now, everything might collapse. "They need an answer to lock in investors," Jake continued, urgency tumbling out of him. But he hesitated again. "But I want to pause. This doesn't have to take priority. I could just." "Jake, if you don't take that call, someone else will. You know how competitive it is out there, right?" His father's voice was steady, but Jake could sense the warning behind it. The room pulsed with tension as Jake wrestled with his thoughts. What did he really want? The ambition that had once burned brightly within him now ignited a fear he had never encountered before, a fear of losing the family he thought he had moved beyond. "No," Jake said suddenly, firming his resolve. "I can't let this take over my life anymore. If I do, I might just lose the chance of a real connection." His father appeared thoughtful, a flicker of respect lighting his features. "You sure about this?" "Yes," Jake answered, his voice resolute. The decision felt both exhilarating and terrifying, like standing on the edge of a cliff with the wind rushing up to meet him. He switched off the phone, a sense of relief washing over him, but it was quickly replaced by dread. What would this mean for his career? Was he willing to gamble his dreams for the chance of reconciling with his family? And yet, as he lifted his gaze to meet his father's eyes, he felt something shift. There was hope, mingled with fear, but it was there. They were standing on the brink of something new, something fragile yet invigorating. "I think this is what Mom would want," he said slowly. "A family. Us, together." "I used to think ambition was enough," his father finally admitted, a sincerity that shook Jake. "But sometimes, it's about more than just business. It's about love, and I hope you know that." Jake nodded, feeling a warmth spread through him. "I want to make it work. I want us all to be part of this, whatever this is." Just then, a memory flooded his mind: how Mom used to cook Sunday dinners, the laughter and warmth that filled their house. It was a stark contrast to the loneliness of his apartment and the endless cycle of meetings. "Let us not just talk about dinner," his father suggested cautiously. "Let us make some plans." The idea sent a wave of exhilaration through Jake. They could cultivate a family again. But beneath his excitement, a gnawing worry lingered. What if their history was too heavy to overcome? "I have an idea," Jake blurted out, excitement pouring into his voice. "What if we have a family meeting to plan it all out? Make it official?" His father raised an eyebrow. "You mean like an agenda?" "Why not?" Jake laughed, the sound feeling foreign yet freeing. "Let us bring everyone in. It's time we addressed all those past grievances head-on." As they both considered this, something shifted in Jake's heart. This discussion felt like the sunrise after a long night. Maybe the journey ahead wouldn't be smooth, but it was certainly worth taking. With an unexpected grin, his father replied, "Well, then, let us get to work." But as they began to sketch out the details, another message pinged on Jake's phone. The familiar name popped up once more. His colleague was relentless, sending another urgent text. Jake's heart sank. Could raising a family and his ambition really coexist? He felt the tightrope balance between his career and family tightening as he glanced at his father. What would the next chapter hold, and could he truly forge a path that honored both? Jake stared at the phone, each notification a cruel reminder of the professional world that beckoned him back. The urgent text from his colleague felt like an unwelcome shadow over the fragile brightness of the moment he was sharing with his father. "What does it say?" his father asked, genuine curiosity in his tone, but the underlying worry was unmistakable. "Just work stuff," Jake replied, forcing his voice to remain steady while a storm of thoughts raged inside him. He tucked the phone away, hoping the act would silence the demands of his job, at least for now. But the pressing feeling in his chest didn't ease. "Jake, I know it's not easy," his father began, a trace of understanding in his eyes. "You've worked hard to get where you are. But family, it lasts longer than any deal." A flicker of frustration crossed Jake's mind. "It's not that simple, Dad. It's my career. My team relies on me." "I get that," his father said softly, leaning back, hands clasped in his lap. "But success isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet or meetings in a boardroom. Sometimes it's about being there for the people you love." Jake's expression hardened, emotions swirling like a tempest. "But I can't just abandon everything I built." The words broke free, raw, and unguarded. He heard the echo of his voice hanging in the air, mixing with unresolved tension. His father remained calm, a silent anchor in the storm of Jake's emotions. "I'm not asking you to abandon it. I'm asking for balance. Can't you see there could be more than just one kind of success? Maybe it's about blending both worlds." His father's perspective began to fizz in Jake's mind. What if he could redirect his ambition towards the family instead? A new vision tugged at him, a bridge between work and home. "I still want to make this family dinner happen. But how?" Jake said, feeling the weight of uncertainty shift a bit. Ideas were lighting up, sparking like dry tinder. We could set a time and place, maybe someone else's house. Everyone could bring a dish. Just like old times. His father smiled, a mix of pride and nostalgia. That's the spirit. Let us get the family involved. We could invite your brother and sister, remind everyone of the bond that brought us together once. The thought of reaching out to his siblings sent a gentle wave of warmth through Jake. He hadn't spoken to them in months, the chasm of time stretching between them like a distant memory. Could they really do this? Could they heal those old wounds together? Okay, let us do it, Jake said, his voice rising with determination. We'll set a date, have everyone bring something meaningful. It'll be like a feast of reconciliation. His father nodded, enthusiasm bubbling between them. It was infectious, vibrant, something neither had felt in a long time. I'll take care of the invitations. We can make it special. Jake could feel the connections weaving tighter around them. The phone in his pocket felt burdensome now, and he swiped it back out of sight. It wasn't time to focus on a job that sometimes overshadowed the value of those closest to him. Yet, as the energy of their plans simmered in the air, doubt prickled at him. What if his colleagues didn't understand his change of heart? What if opportunities slipped away while he was focused on the family? The anxiety crept in uninvited. Jake, his father interrupted his spiraling thoughts, have you thought about what happens when we gather? It'll be emotional. We'll have to talk about where we've been and maybe where we can go together. Jake swallowed hard. Yeah, I know. His voice fell as he considered the past grievances, the silence that had grown like vines around their hearts. What if they don't want to? We'll never know until we try, his father replied, creating room for hope amidst the fear. It won't be perfect, but it'll be real. And that counts for something. Jake nodded, the spark of excitement flickering again. Perhaps this gathering could reshape them all. But an anxiety twitched in his gut. What if old animosities flared up? Could he risk his family's wounds reopening all for a chance at something brighter? As he mulled over the thoughts, his phone finally buzzed once more, this time vibrating against the table like a nagging reminder. Jake, his father started, sensing the turmoil within him. What if we not only planned a dinner but also strategized to fix what has been broken? Like, what do you mean? We could surface old memories. Commit to healing. But he trailed off, a flicker of uncertainty replacing his earlier enthusiasm. A sudden thought zipped through Jake's mind, awakening a new possibility. Could confronting the past not just bring them together but also heal the rifts? He could feel it, this was how they could change everything. That he needed to take that leap, but could he find the courage to bridge those gaps? Taking a deep breath, he nodded resolutely. Let's do this, together. But as hope fluttered, Jake knew the real challenge was yet to come. His heart thrummed with uncertainty, realization dawning. Would everyone embrace this new beginning, or would the past haunt their progress? With questions lingering, Jake glanced at the screen one last time, a decision weighing heavily on his mind. How far was he willing to go to reclaim his family? Jake stood at the edge of his old hometown park, the faded swings creaking softly in the breeze. The air was thick with nostalgia, swirling memories wrapping around him like an old, worn blanket. He felt the weight of his father's suggestions pressing down on him. Could this dinner spark something real, something transformative? He inhaled deeply, trying to steady his racing heart. It was time to turn those scattered thoughts into action. As if on cue, his phone buzzed again, another reminder of his corporate life that was always tugging at him. He flipped it over, swiping the screen down as he stifled a groan. Not now. Not when he had set his sights on something bigger. Determined to reach out, he quickly pulled up his brother's name from his contacts. Jason hadn't answered his calls in months. Memories of childhood laughter swirled in his mind, bike rides, Halloween costumes, arguments over who would control the TV remote. They had been inseparable once. The chasm between them now felt insurmountable, crammed with the unspoken words and shared resentment that he hesitated. What would he even say? Hey, want to come eat dinner and fix the past? No, that felt weak. He needed to be more than that. The butterflies in his stomach twisted tighter. Come on, Jake. This is for the family, he whispered to himself. He tapped his brother's name and waited, listening to the dial tone, each ring echoing like a beat of his pulse. Hello? Jason's voice was guarded, the surprise clear. Hey, it's me, Jake ventured, feeling a rush of adrenaline. I know it's been a while. I wanted to talk about getting everyone together for a dinner. Dad thinks it could be good for us a chance to reconnect. There was a pause on the other end, a silence thick with uncertainty and a hint of annoyance. We haven't exactly been the type of family to sit down for dinner and sing Kumbaya, you know? Jason's words stung even though Jake understood the sentiment. They had always been a fragmented puzzle. I get that. But maybe it's time to try. Just think about it. We could all bring something meaningful to share. It'll be a way to begin healing. Right. Like bringing a dish will fix everything? Jason's sarcasm dripped, cutting through Jake's hopeful tone. Maybe not everything. But it's a start and I know, it's a long shot. But I don't want us to stay distant. We were once close, and I miss that. With those words, Jake felt a shift, the atmosphere between them seemed to change, even if just a little. I don't know, Jake, Jason finally replied, softening. It's gonna take more than just dinner to fix things. You know that, right? I know, Jake murmured, feeling the weight of reality settle back on his shoulders. But can't we at least try? Yeah, I guess, Jason muttered hesitantly. What day were you thinking? Relief flooded through Jake. In 2 weeks. I just want us all there, all of us the siblings, our parents. It's time. I'll think about it, Jason replied, still tentative but less defensive. I'll let you know. But seriously, this better be worth it. As Jake ended the call, a rush of elation filled him. One small step had been taken. He could do this, and somehow, it felt like a weight was lifting. But somewhere deep inside, an unshakable worry lingered. Would it be enough? Would their fragile bond hold under scrutiny? He turned his gaze to the park's old gazebo, sunlight streaming through its wooden slats. It had been a meeting place for joyous occasions and whispered secrets, and now, it felt like a beacon of hope. Perhaps this dinner would bring new light to buried shadows. What if Jason didn't show? What if their siblings met with disdain instead of understanding? The old fears crawled back into his mind. Jake, his father's voice echoed back in his thoughts. We'll never know until we try. With his heart pounding, he gathered himself, a cautious smile creeping onto his face. Maybe he could change the narrative of their story, piece by piece, gathering the fragmented family that once was. But as excitement swirled, a ground-shaking question emerged: how could he stitch the family fabric back together without ripping it apart? The uncertainty wrapped around him like a fog, thick and beckoning. Would everyone be willing to confront what had splintered them so deeply? The journey of healing had only just begun. Would they embrace it? Jake spent the next few days walking around town, sometimes aimlessly, reflecting on that call with Jason. Each encounter, whether it was with the barista at the coffee shop or a distant school friend, stirred familiar emotions. Some were warm, bringing back fond memories, while others ignited feelings of uncertainty and awkwardness. The interactions each brought their own set of nostalgia and guilt, like a mixed tape of life that he couldn't quite figure out. That he felt the weight of the upcoming dinner press against him like a closing door. The thought of his siblings gathered in one room, each carrying their own baggage, cramped his chest. What if it all fell apart? What if the carefully planned dinner turned into a battleground? Just focus on one step at a time, he told himself. Daily interactions with coworkers felt trivial now. Was business really what mattered most? The bustling calls and urgent emails came in waves, but he found himself zoning out, lost in his memories. Then, as he flipped through his father's old photo albums one evening, he paused on a picture that took his breath away. It was a candid shot of him and Jason, young and carefree, grinning ear to ear in front of a makeshift lemonade stand. They had been best friends, partners in crime, sharing the thrill of summer afternoons wrapped in laughter. Tears pricked at his eyes as he traced the outline of their smiling faces with his fingers. What happened? He whispered, half to himself, half to the ghosts of their childhood. It felt like a grave misunderstanding that had been allowed to fester into a chasm. With a burst of energy, he pulled out his phone and began drafting messages to their siblings. Each text was painfully heartfelt, a blend of hope and vulnerability. "I really think we should all be there," he tapped out to Emma, who was always so level-headed. "I miss the days when we just did things together." After sending the last message, he paused, his heart racing. It wasn't just about the dinner, it was about shifting their family's legacy, about altering that fear into something tangible. He wanted them all to feel what he felt in that moment, a deep need to reconnect, but a question nestled deep in his heart lingered: would his siblings receive it the way he hoped? Would they show the same enthusiasm, or would they brush him aside again? As he paced around the remnants of the backyard over the following days, Jake started setting up little surprises for the dinner. A favorite dish of each sibling, a slideshow of childhood photos that could spark laughter, and even a spot for games that occupy everyone's minds and ease any tension. He was determined to create an atmosphere welcoming enough to fend off previous resentments. The night of the dinner arrived, bringing a swirling mix of emotions. His heart rattled against his ribs as he arranged the table. He caught himself pausing often, glancing at the clock, wondering if anyone would show. Each tick sounded like a countdown to disappointment. When the doorbell finally rang, he almost jumped out of his skin. With a deep breath, he opened the door to find Em at the threshold, her arm around Jason. It was such an unexpected pairing that for a second, all he could do was blink. "Hey," Jason grumbled, but the smile tugging at his lips betrayed an ease he hadn't expected. "Let us do this," Jake replied, more to himself than anyone, ushering them inside. The smell of roasted chicken filled the house like an invisible barrier, offering comfort as they crossed over the threshold. The evening unfolded like a readjustment of old strings, and while laughter bubbled, it couldn't completely minimize the awkward pauses. Each sibling tiptoed over subjects held hostage by the past. But as the night rolled on, stories floated over the table like ghosts, almost tangible: the lemonade stand, the road trips, Jason's infamous dance moves from childhood, and even Dad's terrible jokes. As he watched their faces softening, Jake felt hopeful. A flicker of warmth ignited in the room, and for the first time in what felt like forever, he had hope that maybe, just maybe, they could stitch the family tapestry back together one thread at a time. But even as optimism bubbled, something else was slinking in the shadows, unseen but palpable. In the atmosphere thickened by unspoken words, as laughter mingled with lingering resentment, Jake couldn't help but wonder: was this merely a beginning, or were they all still treading on fragile ground, poised for another chance at hurt? He glanced at the door, heart hammering. What would happen if their hidden truths came crashing down tonight? Would they risk it all or stay locked in the safety of silence? With that looming dread, Jake braced for whatever was about to unfold. The clatter of forks on plates mingled with the softer sounds of laughter, wrapping around Jake like a comforting embrace. He felt a smile creeping onto his face as he watched Em and Jason engage in a playful debate about who was the better cook. It was the kind of scene he had longed for, the kind that turned the bitter memories into sweet nostalgia. But beneath the surface, the tension loomed like a shadow, waiting for the right moment to invade their fragile peace. Jake filled their glasses with wine, feeling the warmth of the alcohol radiate through him. Each sip carried a bittersweet edge, a mix of celebration and an unshakable fear. He couldn't shake the thought that they were working hard to ignore something deep-seated. "So, what's the deal with that old treehouse?" Em asked, her eyes sparkling with mischief. It was a reference to their childhood haunt, a rickety structure that had become a symbol of their bond. Jason sighed dramatically, eyes rolling. You mean the one I fell off when Jake dared me to jump from the roof? Thanks a lot for that, by the way. Jake chuckled, his heart leaping at the ease with which they reminisced. Moments like these felt like patches of sunlight breaking through heavy clouds. But before he could fully savor it, he noticed M's puzzled look. She glanced toward the family photo wall, her gaze falling on the later years when the laughter had faded, leaving only traces of the hurt. Do you remember the last time we were all together? M asked quietly, the atmosphere shifting. The laughter faded, and Jake felt his stomach drop. The table fell unnaturally silent as memories collided like cars in a crash. Jake's mind raced. That last dinner had ended in raised voices, accusations, and the sharp taste of unresolved anger. Jason looked away, uncertain, and for a fleeting moment, Jake worried he could see the familiar anger flare in his brother's eyes. Can we just not? Jason interrupted with a rough edge. We're finally here. Let us just enjoy this. Jake's heart pounded as he watched him tense. The atmosphere thickened, setting off alarms in his mind. Could he prevent a disaster? The carefully arranged dinner felt like a balancing act on a tightrope. After all these years, I thought we could talk about it, Jake blurted out, his voice rising as adrenaline surged through him. I wanted us to come together, not just dance around what happened. M's expression softened, but Jason's jaw tightened. It brought back the memories of unspoken words, forgotten promises. Not here, not now, Jason snapped back, the gentleness replaced by hostility. Why can't we? Jake challenged, his heart racing in sync with the anger flashing across the table. We can't keep pretending everything's okay when it's not. With that, tension exploded. Jake could feel the air crackle around them. M's voice quivered as she jumped in. It's exhausting, Jake. We want to heal, but you can't force it all at once. Jake felt the walls closing in around him, the weight of his family's history crashing down. This wasn't how he'd envisioned the night going. The cozy light, the delicious dinner, it all felt increasingly distant as his emotions clawed their way to the surface. I just thought, he stammered as he pushed back from the table, his voice breaking, I thought we could start fresh. A heavy silence settled, punctuated only by the sound of swirling glasses and the rustle of napkins. All eyes were on him, the air rife with anticipation, questions unspoken. Would they seize this moment to confront their past, or would they choose the safety of silence once again? As Jake wrestled with his fears, he could feel the tension coiling tighter, and then the worst happened. The door swung open, and footsteps echoed through the hallway. Jake's heart skipped a beat. Who else was coming? Was it someone from their past, or someone who would finally reveal the truth they were all afraid to face? The door swung open, revealing a figure cloaked in shadows. For a heartbeat, time stood still as Jake's heart raced. The tension at the table soared, thickening the air and snatching away any lingering warmth from the room. Who is it? M whispered, her voice barely above a breath, eyes wide with anticipation. As the figure stepped into the light, Jake felt the ground shift beneath him. It was their father, face etched in worry, the lines deeper than he remembered. He looked older, and the weight of the world seemed to rest on his shoulders. Everyone froze. Dad? Jake's voice cracked like glass. Memories flooded back, those familiar long drives where silence felt suffocating, arguments over the smallest things, and evenings spent in the company of disappointment instead of love. Guys, their father began, hesitating as he scanned the table. The noise fell silent, they were all seated like children at a school meeting, waiting for a lecture. I know the timing isn't great, but we need to talk. About what, exactly? Jason's voice was defensive. He had always been the more difficult one, the stubborn one who held their parents' mistakes like a shield. Jake wanted to protest, to shout that this wasn't how it was supposed to go. They had finally gathered together, he had yearned for this moment, and now it was unraveling around him. I saw you all together, their dad continued, his eyes glistening with an unfamiliar emotion. I thought that you could swoop in and play the hero. Jason interrupted, anger creeping up his tone. Where have you been all these years? You can't just waltz in now and expect us to act like everything's fine. Enough. Em interjected, her voice rising, a brave attempt to quell the rising storm. We've all made mistakes. Can't we at least listen? The words hung in the air, fragile. Slowly, Jake felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this was the opening they needed. He glanced at his brother, at Em, gauging their reactions. Would they let the smallest crack of vulnerability lead them forward? I'm not here to make excuses, their father said, his voice trembling slightly. I'm here because I want to be a part of this. I want. His gaze fell to the table, his bravado slipping. I want to fix what was broken. Silence spread like a blanket, enveloping them in a cocoon of hesitation. Jake's stomach churned with uncertainty. Could they really address the hurt? What about Mom? Jason's question sliced through the tension. It was blunt and heavy, carrying the burden of years unspoken. Does she know you're back in town? Their father's face fell, shadows creeping in once again. I haven't talked to her. I thought you all deserved to hear this first. I need your help. Help? M's disbelief was palpable. You expect us to play nice after everything? I'm asking for a chance, their dad said, desperation creeping into his voice. A chance to make things right. Jake felt the knot in his throat tightening. They were at a crossroads, caught between the past and a fragile possibility for the future. Would they take a step or retreat back into the silence? Just then, a loud crash resounded from the kitchen, shattering the moment. All heads turned toward the sound, tension snapping like a taut wire. What was that? Em cried, worry etched on her face. Jake, adrenaline rushing through him, stood up. I'll check it out, he said, already moving. The call of uncertainty loomed, but he had to know what was happening. As he headed toward the kitchen, he wondered if this new chaos would draw them closer or pull them further apart. And as he pushed open the door, he braced himself for whatever truth awaited, hoping desperately it wouldn't become another painful remembrance. What was lurking just out of their sight? The kitchen was a whirlwind of activity, a cascade of pots clattering and an unexpected splash of tomato sauce hitting the tile. It took Jake a moment to gather himself before stepping into the mess. Mom? He called out. They hadn't seen her in ages, not since that awkward Christmas where silence sat heavy around the family table. Jake's heart ached at the thought of her. Maybe this was a sign, perhaps it was time for them all to face the music together. Jake! I'm good. She shouted back, cheeks flushed, a smile breaking through as she stood amidst the chaos. Her laugh skittered across the room, something both familiar and soothing. Jake couldn't help but grin. There stood his mother, sturdy and resolute, just as he remembered her when she'd stir up warmth and love in the kitchen. What happened? Just a little accident with some marinara sauce. No biggie. She waved him off as she wiped her hands on a frayed towel. But everyone's here already, and I didn't want to keep them waiting. Moments later, the door swung open, and Jason and Em appeared behind him. The family's atmosphere was shifting, wrapping around them like a blanket. Need some help? Em asked, stepping closer to her mother. More hands are always welcome. Mom beamed, tossing a ladle to Em, who instinctively began stirring the sauce. Jake could hardly process the sight, his mom, stirring the same sauce they had cooked together countless times. Familiar warmth flooded him, and he thought of everything that had been lost. Then it hit him, even in chaos, family was still family, bonded by love and memories that would always anchor them despite the tides of life. Hey, I can chop some garlic. Jake volunteered suddenly, feeling buoyed by the camaraderie around him. He moved to the counter, grabbing a knife and settling into a rhythm. While chopping, he stole glances at his siblings, the heat of the stove warming the kitchen even more. They were slowly finding themselves again, weaving through shared stories of childhood as they prepared a meal together. "Remember that time we tried to bake a cake and ended up with a pancake?" Jason laughed, the tension from before receding like a wave. "Oh, don't remind me," Jake replied, chuckling. "Mom about lost it." "More like I wanted to lose my mind," Mom interjected, laughter dancing in her voice. The exchange felt soothing, a blend of laughter and sizzling spices filling the air. But as Jake turned, he glimpsed their father standing just outside the kitchen door. His expression was one of longing mixed with hesitation, the weight of unspoken words hanging thick in the space. "Dad?" Jake called, motioning him in. "Come help us." For a moment, time felt suspended. Would their father step forward, or would he retreat into the shadows? Their father took a deep breath, glancing between his children. He started, faltering as the memories of the past loomed large. But then he stepped over the threshold, joining them in the kitchen. There was a silence, a moment where every heart in the room held its breath. "What can I do?" he finally asked, an olive branch extended. "Chop some onions," Em said, laughter threading through her voice as she tossed him a vegetable. The atmosphere thickened with new hope as their dad joined in on the chaos and laughter. Little by little, the kitchen transformed into a place of healing, flickering memories entwining around their words. Jake felt warmth grow in his chest. This was where it began: a kitchen, a meal, and the act of being together. "I think we're finally doing it," Jake whispered to himself, glancing around at the faces he had almost given up on. Healing wasn't perfect, but it was real. As they gathered around the table, the atmosphere buzzed with laughter and clinked glasses. Jake found himself looking around the room, drinking in the sight of his family, the broken pieces forming something new. When everyone sat down, Jake felt a shift in the energy. Hope flickered like candles casting light on darkness past. "I know we've all made mistakes," Jake began hesitantly, the words forming like fragile baby birds ready to take flight, but Em jumped in. "We can't change what happened, but we can choose how we move forward." Jason chimed in, his voice softer than before. "I want to be a part of better things." And there it was, a collective realization. Maybe tonight was just the start towards rebuilding, but that was better than standing still in silence. With glowing hearts and red sauce-streaked plates, the Thompsons had taken a chance to speak, to connect, and to feel. As laughter rang through the air, Jake felt a swell of warmth in his heart and acceptance that sometimes, it was the messiest moments that led to the most beautiful transformations. He glanced at his father, who was now laughing at some table conversation, the shadows of the past slowly dissolving. Jake's throat tightened. "This is just the beginning for us, isn't it?" His eyes sparkled with a mix of anticipation and joy. His father met his gaze, a mix of relief and determination crossing his face. "Yes, son. It's definitely a start." As they clinked glasses, Jake realized it was a fragile moment in time, but it was theirs. They could embrace it, dance in the chaos, and find beauty woven in the fabric of their family story. No more missed chances, no more lingering shadows. This was their time. It was time for them to write a new chapter, theirs together, and as they dove into the delicious meal, Jake felt the fresh air of possibility fill the room. They would fight for the future and cherish each other through the storms. Peace settled as warm laughter filled the room, enveloping them in the glow of hope that resonated deeper than any boundary. This was home, this was family. And it felt real. As he looked around at the faces he loved, their laughter like a melody that threaded through the chaos, Jake whispered to himself, "We'll make it, one day at a time." So remember, friends. You need to subscribe now to catch all the exclusive stories that inspire. Leave a like now to help promote the video, comment below with your thoughts and feelings about this journey, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need a dose of hope and transformation in their lives. Don't wait not even one more second to show your support. Your engagement means the world.